Hey, I'm Cassie, your friendly neighborhood chaos goddess.
And I'm Sam, your hostile neighborhood plot device. This is our podcast in which we talk about things like conventions, cosplay, and writing.
And whatever else we feel like talking about. But today, it's prose.
Specifically world building and its different types.
And how we are completely opposite in how we like to write stories.
Jesus Christ, we could not be... No, actually, we could be
We
much...
could definitely be much more opposite.
But how we world build and also how we write are... It's very different, and you can tell. Because, I like to write, and how I come up with worlds and world building is I kind of come up with characters first, and I go, I like these characters. What are my rules for the world that I want to put them in? And Cassie does not.
No, I don't. I do often come up with characters first, but I normally come up with characters surrounding a theme. And I let that theme build the world around them instead of just them. I rely a lot on plot lines for making up my world. I also really just like going, oh, I really like this idea and concept. I'm going to place it right here, and it's just going to do whatever it's going to do in my novel. Maybe it doesn't do anything, but maybe it does.
Yeah, I was like, I like this relationship, and I want to explore this thing that's between these two people, and that's actually, so Cassie and I are both actually writing a book, but that's something that we'll discuss more in depth at a much later
We're not writing together.
No.
Maybe one day, but for this, not writing it together.
No. The thing that Cassie and I would write together would be a D&D campaign.
Oh, that's true. That's very true. That's also a topic for a different day.
Yeah, like we've addressed in the previous podcast and this one, we fully intend on talking about D&D, just not right now because there's so much groundwork that we want to put forth. Speaking of which, Cassie, can I ask you a question?
Well, what is it, Sam?
It's how do you world build?
Poorly. Very poorly. Actually, I don't think I'm the best at world building, but I have my own way. I like to focus more on the plot of whatever novel I'm writing. I've learned from the past that trying to do too big of a world concept at first overwhelms me, also overwhelms my brain. So I try to start off with whatever stories I'm writing. So right now I'm writing a trilogy. That's all based off of one town, one city in the middle of a world. I base everything starting from small and going large. So right now I'm working with this city, working with the characters in the city, but then I find webs and pieces that go apart. So this person's in the city, but they're from Fellhammer. This person is in the city, but they've worked with people on the Shattered Coast. I work from smaller to larger. That way I don't get overwhelmed. Also, that way, I've learned this, I actually write more. I don't focus so much on trying to piece the world together entirely at first, and more try to focus on making sure the story works out where it is, and then piece off of that. It leads to really nice places where I already am like, oh, I could write another story about this. I could write another story about that. But I want everything to kind of go in with whatever plot I'm writing at the moment. That way I'm not trying to go too big.
It's a wonderful answer.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I world build by screaming at my Word doc and then hoping for the best.
That sounds about right.
It is. But no, how I world build is I came up with these two characters and they came up with plot, and then I don't necessarily come up with that eloquent way of doing things. I kind of come up with names and things that I like, and then I kind of go off how I feel like those names should be for some reason.
Names mean a lot.
Names do mean a lot. Names have very specific feelings, in my opinion. You can disagree with me. I don't care. It's your life. But I really like coming up with the rules for the world. Is there magic? How does the magic work? That's something that my brother and I have actually had some discussions with in world building and storytelling, is because magic, yes, magic doesn't have to have rules, but for your story to be credible, it needs to have rules, period. So oftentimes I'll come up with rules like that, and in my city, it's called Nadir. I I'm also setting it in a sort of time where, yes, there's not advanced technology, but there is guns. And
also, to preface everything, we're both fantasy writers.
yes. Oh my god, yeah. Fantasy's a good time. It really is. But like for my world, I have guns, but I have laws in the city that you can't practice any form of destruction. Guns are outlawed in the city, and so is fire magic because rules and regulations, and just I kind of built off of that and kind of developed things that way, and then I developed supernatural things in my world. Like, that was the first thing I developed, was I came up with city names, and then I developed supernatural entities and how they shaped the world, and then I just ran with it. And so I just vomited all over the Word doc.
And see, that's the difference. That's another big difference, is you actually write down all your world building. I don't do a lot of my world building in Word docs. I write some of it in journals. I mostly just write, and as soon as I go, this is something I need to keep in mind for the future, I'll like grab one of my journals and I'll write it down. But I don't have extensive files for like all of the background to my world, mostly because, again, I've learned that when I do that, I don't write as much. I don't actually write the story. I just start making the world. And I've been writing long enough, and I haven't gotten anything published yet, that I know that I just need to stop and just start writing what's coming out at the moment. As I like to tell everyone, your first draft's gonna suck. Your second draft is also still gonna suck. Your third draft's so much better. Oh my god. But I don't write down any of my world building stuff. I do write down like the important stuff. So if I'm like, this is how magic works, I already know how magic works in my world. I already know in my heart. But if I'm like, oh, this person who I say by name, but I say it only once, is the leader of the Mages Guild, I need to write that down so I don't forget it and don't give them 3 other names in the novel as we go along.
That's a really big mood. But like for me, I follow Brandon Sanderson is my personal biggest aspiration and idol when it comes to writing, because his world building is so expansive, it's so detailed. And so, yes, sometimes I do get like caught up in world building. Recently, like my way works for me. I have actually everything written down in like subcategories in OneNote, because it lets me explore things, because I'm gonna forget. I promise you, I will forget, which is why I write everything down. Because my memory isn't as great as Cassie's.
My memory sucks. ADHD has got that shit on lock.
Yes, and there will also be eventually an episode of Pros and Cons where we discuss mental illness, but that's not now. But like, yeah, ADHD sucks, but memory sucks.
Mine has always been that I've been writing these stories since before I really could write, that everything lives in my heart, which sounds really cheesy, I know.
It's okay, you're just cheesy.
I am really cheesy.
We'll dip you in fondue later. No, we'll dip something in you later.
Like, yeah.
I know how fondue works, swear to God.
Okay, yeah, sure. But no, I have it all working in my head at every given moment that I could answer almost any question anyone gives to me of my story without having to write down the world building.
I pull my answers out of my ass.
It's called being a DM. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I've had a lot of people. So my story right now is up to 50 pages because, yes, I actually like my method works for me, and that's the important thing, is like finding the method that works for you. And
not every single writer is the same. If we were, our libraries would not be as extensive.
They really wouldn't be, or interesting. But so for mine, I have my problem that I've recently been running into is me wanting to change the plot and add characters.
Which is exactly why I've stopped world building so much, because I find that as I'm world building, you're like, cool, I came up with a really cool character. I want to write them now. You can write them later is the nice thing that you can always tell yourself, but I did the same thing until I went, no, this story is specifically going to be about this one character with their small group around them, and the few characters who I add make sense to the plot. I've really learned that relying on making sure that the plot runs smoothly all the way through without doing the fancy world building that works for other people has helped me. just because it's making sure that my plot is succinct and delivers what I want it to, which is the other thing I focus on a lot, is I focus on themes and, like, what their reader is getting out of my novel instead of just what what the world is in my novel.
Yeah, and basically what Cassie and I are talking about with different writing styles is we're talking about the gardeners versus architects in writing. I can't remember.
It's George R. R. Martin has talked about it.
Okay, because I was like, I thought it might also be Sanderson or like not Sanderson.
Maybe
the Rothfuss.
The one interview I saw was specifically them asking George R. R. Martin about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's a gardener, which is probably why I'm also a gardener, is because I read A Song of Ice and Fire at least 5 times at this point. Don't look at how many words that is.
You don't want to.
It's too many.
She wrote me into it when you were in high school.
I did. But he's a gardener. They end up cultivating everything. They're slowly writing and making sure that everything around them is perfect. So yes, they don't have that extensive world building. They don't have plans. I don't have plans. I do now. I've learned that it's nice to have a direct plot line that you're aiming for, but I don't have anything architect off of that.
But I'm an architect because the problem with my plot that I've run into is I'll be writing and writing and writing, and then I'll run into the problem of, fuck, where does my plot go? And with that, like, I've had conversations with people, and that's when I hear, Sam, you need to probably outline. And I'm like, oh, I know, outlining, a dreaded word.
And I think outlining sucks. I hate outlining. But I think outlining is nice also because you have the ability to be as thorough and as thin as you want it to be. I know mine is literally ... end of first book, ... end of second book. I don't waste a lot of time. Again, I don't waste a lot of time on anything that's not getting the story out on the page, unless it's watching YouTube videos.
Fair.
But I do that so that I know exactly what I want to happen. What needs to happen in that book will happen. Anything else is extra, and it might lend to the characters or the world, or it may not. It's just going to be what it is. But
yeah.
at least I have what I need out.
Yeah, and for me, like, I'm getting what I need out, but it also helps me make it so that I can just focus on writing, and I know what I want to happen, and I can pull it off very well. Because, like, my outlines don't look like outlines. They look like summaries of the books that you'd find on IMDb or Wikipedia, because that's just how I am as a person. I want to be as thorough as possible. But, like, the one thing that's not in my outlines is dialogue. And, like, me developing the outlines and writing the story helps me kind of, like, bring about dialogue that feels more natural to me, because I know it's like acting, in which Cassie and I have both been actors in our youth, quote.
Youth.
And, like, one of the biggest things that I got when being in, like, acting classes, even in college and acting, they were like, being an actor is all about knowing where your character ends up and the discovery of getting there. And you have to do that every night. And so being a writer is much the same. You know where you want your character development to go to, but how do you get there is, like, the question. It's kind of also like math that I detest. Math sucks.
I was going to say, why are you bringing up math? I thought we were in a safe space.
I'm sorry, Cassie.
I hate math. I hate math so much.
It's like when people bring up, music is also math, and I'm like, please stop.
I mean, it can be, but no.
I'm like, you're right. However, I hate you now. But like, it's just so integral to
integral. I know.
I hate words. Why are we writing, Cassie?
Oh, I love words.
But it's just, outlining can be critical. It does not have to be, like, even if you're a gardener, you can still outline some of the things. You can at least come to the end.
You can at least have 3 bullet points, and that's all you really need.
That's all, just 3 bullet points.
Because you need a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, and so you can write, this is how it starts. Somewhere in the middle, this happens. This is how it's going to end. It's just how to get to point A to point C with B being a question mark.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes you know exactly what's going to happen.
That
I do.
That's scary.
I know.
I'm spooked.
You should be.
I'm
Other
not
nice
safe
thing.
help.
The other nice thing about it is we also both are dungeon masters. Again, we'll talk about D&D more in a later episode, but it also plays in with the writing, specifically world building.
There's gonna be a lot of episodes about D&D.
There's gonna be so many episodes about D&D. But my biggest thing that I've grown into with writing is the way I DM is a lot how I write stories. But you also have to understand the way you do one thing can't always be the same as the other thing. But because of that, I know exactly how a quest is supposed to go. You get the quest, you do the quest, you end the quest. Books are a lot like that. You just have to understand that books, it's only you. And with books, you have to come up with all that character development and all the plot and all the dialogue and all the themes and the setting, everything. My English major is coming out in me.
Really? I wouldn't have guessed.
Wow.
Anyways,
before I was so rudely interrupted.
That's going to happen a lot on this podcast.
It really is. There's just so much to it that you either naturally feel it, and if you don't naturally feel it, that doesn't mean that you can't write. You just have to learn how to make your world work for you. That's honestly the only thing I ever tell anyone who asks me about writing, is my way is never going to work for you. You just have to do the way that works for you.
It's like those cheesy things that you heard in high school about, like, just be yourself. Literally, just be yourself. Just be you, but on paper.
Unless you don't write at all, and then you really do need to write. Like, don't be yourself in that regard. Just write.
Just all right. At the end of this podcast, no, right now, go write on that writing project if you're a writer. Like, I know you. I see you. I know that you're procrastinating.
I don't see you. I'm blind.
I'm not. I can see you. Go write. Like, at least write a sentence. Because that's a sentence more than you've had.
Yeah.
Or at least write a word. Or at least try and, if you're stuck...
Try to world build a little. I don't do that, but try to do it. It'll help you.
I mean, honestly, world building is a lot of fun. It can be a lot of fun. It can also be hellish. as Cassie finds it to be. But I world build because I hope one day that people will send me questions and I will not pull fucking Rowling and be like, oh yeah, this is canon.
Yes,
because it'll have always been canon. Because I'll always I will pull my own receipts on everybody. Ask me.
I can never pull my own receipts. I never have anything written down. Let's be real. Really mysterious at this point.
I'll just jump into your head and pull them out for you.
At this point, that's what it is. It's everything in my head, and that is one thing for me why I don't world build, is that this whole world lives in my head, so it feels redundant to write it all down, because one, it's here, it's with me already, but secondly, no one else needs to see my world other than what I put in my books. Because some of the world is only for me, or it's for me to build upon, and it's not all developed. Like, our world's not all developed. I mean, it's there, but it's constantly growing. I want my world to be constantly growing with me. If you would have asked me 10 years ago, some of the stuff that I'm writing right now, I would never have thought about it. I would have never had the characters I do now. I wouldn't have the people that I do now. I wouldn't have the plot I do now. I didn't think that I would ever do the theme I'm doing right now, which we'll talk about later. I don't want to spoil anything. But the theme I'm doing right now is directly linked to things that have happened in my life in the past 3 years that I would have never wrote about 10 years ago.
Yeah, like, my book is about, I don't know if people will get it. I'm pretty sure they will, and then I'll get call out on Twitter. But most of my themes of my book are actually about social issues that I've been experienced to also in the past 3 to 4 years. And also it's about identity. It's about discovery. Like, I also world build and plot build based off of unexpected twists that I think that my readers will enjoy and that I will enjoy. In fact, I spoiled a couple of twists for one of my, quote, beta readers, end quote, and he was so shaken. He just looked at me for a solid 5 minutes, and he was just, I can't tell if he was mad at me or just, like, really excited to read about it.
I'm gonna guess mad at you. Also, beta readers are a valid thing and important because, especially as writers who are just starting to write, it's nice to have people who you know, but are also going to tell you exactly what they're getting from the book. We will touch on this at a later podcast, but it's so important to have people around you who are reading your stuff actually know how to be a beta reader or an editor or something like that. You don't want someone who is just going to go, this is great. Done.
You need feedback.
You need feedback. You need, oh my god, I didn't see this coming, or, oh, this was really predictable, or, this is confusing, I'm not sure about what's happening here.
The other important thing is get people who can constructively criticize you. Don't get somebody that's going to read it and then nitpick everything. You don't want somebody that's going to read what you write and then make you feel like you never want to write ever again. That's bad. That's not good criticism. It's not. You really, for my beta readers, I know that my book is nowhere near in a place that it's ready for legitimate literary criticism. I just, send it to people and I go, hey, 1, does the plot grab you? 2, did these seem like real people to you? Because if the answer is no on both accounts, then I have things that I need to fix. But I, so far, haven't gotten that. I actually had one of my beta readers be like... Once again, my beta readers, for some reason, just hear me ramble for hours at a time, and I feel bad for all of them. So if you're listening, I'm sorry. But 2... I had somebody, send me, a massive email with questions about, the plot, about things that I actually forgot that I didn't write in, and so, I have that saved in my email to go over later when I can, because if I have a problem where I have to go back and edit everything, I view it as weeding the garden, which is bad, because, if you just keep go back and editing, you're never going to progress.
Nope. You
can always go back and edit later, but
yes.
Just get it out now, which is why I'm at a writer's block and why I had to go and outline is because I'm at
Don't worry, I'm still working on a 1.5 draft. Have you ever written a story in one point of view and then decided, no, I want it to be in a separate point of view?
I forgot
Do
you did
know
that.
how hard it is to go through and change every I, me, mine to third person? It's awful. That's a whole nother book. To explain, I have about 5 novels that are uncompleted from different projects. I have over 100 pages on each one of these. But the issue that I had was nothing ever after I wrote it grabbed me again, and nothing felt important enough for me to finish, except for the one I'm writing right now, which I'm spending a lot of time not world building writing down, but world building in my head exactly how it's gonna plot out, because this is a very important book to me.
I promise we'll stop being vague eventually, but we just wanted to
I do not want to word vomit on you about what my book's about, because it's just not it's
not ready.
It's not ready to be talked about. I don't even talk to a lot of the people in my life about what's going on page.
I'll vouch for Cassie right now, because I know generalities, I know characters, I know themes, but I'm not 1,000% sure what she has planned, which is also true for how she DMs.
This is also true. It's true in how I live my life. Always a mystery. Keep yourself a mystery, kids.
Yeah, no, I can get behind that advice. No. But at that point, maybe one day we'll have sponsors so that we'll have a break and you guys can tell us to shut up quietly or loudly. You can tell us to shut up at any point in time.
You guys can literally tell us to shut up. I will promise you, I won't.
Oh yeah, no, I will never shut up.
But I will take your comment, stick it in my pocket, and go, oh, look, a comment.
Hand it out to people at cons.
I will tell people that someone told me to shut up on the internet.
Yeah, but this does end our time-ish, because we could ramble for hours. We
really
probably
could.
will.
We probably will on later podcasts about. I think we're gonna go into specifically the different parts of writing, setting, plot, characters, all of that good stuff.
The character episode is gonna be very fun, because we're gonna bring up D&D characters. We're gonna bring up personal characters. There's just gonna be a lot of characters.
I have too many.
Same. And their names are really weird for me too.
Mine are all great. Like, mine are all pretty steady names.
I have a character named Skaith.
That is a weird name.
It is.
See, mine's like Kira and Bash and Mercy.
Yeah, but those are nicknames. Well, Bash is a nickname.
Yeah, his name is Sebastian. He's a good boy.
He's in our he's an NPC in our D&D, but
he's also in my story.
But please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Ask us questions. Ask us anything, in all honesty. Like, why did you guys decide to start doing a podcast? And we'll just word vomit.
We'll tell you we did it because we wanted to hear ourselves talk.
We did it for the memes.
Just to let you guys know, some of these first ones are going to be pre-recorded just because we don't live in the same town, and some of us have vacations we're taking soon, but...
Just at me, why don't you?
Oh, I am. I'm also adding myself. I have a vacation too. Yeah.
So,
So, if we're not getting back to questions on podcast, don't worry, we're going to do that soon. Just know that the first... Probably about 3 to 4.
I'd say I would dare to say 5.
Oh no. Yeah, I would say about 5 podcasts are going to be pre-recorded.
I'd also say look forward to November for NaNoWriMo podcasting, because that, I promise you, for the entire month of November, that is just going to be Prose podcasts.
It's just going to be us typing. You're going to hear the keyboard go, and I'm just going to scream every 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, so if you're into ASMR screaming and typing, then November is the month for you.
Unless it was like last November, where halfway through November, I gave up and started playing Stardew Valley. And then remembered I was supposed to be writing a novel and wrote about 20,000 words in the last week.
I'm still proud of you for that. That was amazing.
I don't know how I did it.
Dark magic.
Dark magic.
Something.
But remember to like, comment, and subscribe.
Subscriptions.
Please.
We're hungry, starving artists.
If you even think that we're slightly cool, please subscribe. You don't even have to watch our videos. Please watch our videos. But you don't.
You don't even have to like us. God knows I don't like us.
You could spite follow us, and I would be okay. I spite follow so many people.
Yeah, just be like, man, fuck these people. What are they doing? And then just bitch at us. It's fine. We don't care. Okay, we care a little bit.
Yeah,
but,
we care a little bit. But anyways.
But I swear to God, now we're ending. Please take care of yourselves. Drink water. Eat food.
Write some.
Go right now. This podcast is over, and write at least a sentence minimum. That's all we're asking you to do. All right. Goodbye.
Bye, guys.